The consulting process begins with initial contact. This is where we start with. And then there's a contracting, gathering some information. We do some analysis, reporting, develop an action plan. Then we support company in implementation. As Tan said, the supporting company even after the project, for example, completion. So I've always tell the companies that I'm always available on phone for them if they want to take any advice, and I don't charge for any kind of telephonic advices. So they can call me whenever they want. And in most of the companies, I develop friendship with the team and the top management as well, because this is also one way of marketing myself. So always remember your marketing aspect. You are not only going to the factory to help the factory, but you are also there to help yourself. So when you're in the factory, learn a lot. In every factory, you will come across new situations, new problems, new solutions. Learn as much as you can in the factory, build upon that, modify your tools. For example, I shared with you this one data collection tool. I always make changes to it. Whenever I'm sending it to a factory, I open it up based on the recent experiences that I had. I make some changes to it, send it to the new factory, and also see while sending it to the new factory, are there any aspects that are missing for this factory in the special case? Or is there something that is not existing there? So I remove it from there, for example. And so always remember, you are there to help yourself as well. You're there to make money as well, but also to build a rapport so that these people who are getting your service do the marketing for you for free. So whenever they're sitting somewhere, they would tell, okay, XYZ consultant came to us and we saved a lot. But they will remember you if you stay in contact with them. So one good trait is to stay in contact with your clients as well. I would say that is a trait of a good consultant and a trainer. So stay in contact with your client, try to connect with them on LinkedIn, for example, and then stay connected with them and send them updates, but do not send them spam emails. Don't send them an update email every month, but maybe send them a hello email a year or half a year after, for example, asking if you implemented something, if you need any support, for example, and then review and evaluation. And first mission is accomplished, and then maybe you keep on going with the next cycle with that company. And then always be aware of the different roles you can perform or you are put into. So extreme right, for example, is a more direct role, going there as a technical expert, helping clients in providing expert answers, or helping in content, for example. On the extreme left hand side is a non-directive role, or a role of a facilitator, where you help client to help themselves, so doing a change management approach. So if you keep moving towards the right, you become more of a content expert, technical expert, where the client is looking up to you to give them very, very specific answers. On the left hand side, the client is more forward looking and is also looking at sustainability, the control part of DMAIC process. So for example, on the right hand side, if you are a regulator, an enforcer, or a third party auditor, for example, and then you keep moving, you become an advocate, a technical expert, and then an educator or trainer who helps client develop new knowledge and skills. Then a process resource who frames issues, gathers them together, and suggests new options, but also takes care of clients' options as well. Keep moving towards left, and you're a problem solving partner where you help them in solving the problem starting from beginning till end. Then you become a facilitator. You provide process suggestions to help clients find their own best answers. So rather than you give them any answers, you ask them to come up with the answers. And then on the left hand side, extreme left, you are only there as an observer. You let them manage their own work, but then you observe and you provide feedback and you raise different questions, help them into framing their work into a certain framework so that they keep on moving. So there are different roles that one can play as a consultant or as a trainer. It's not only one role that you're playing there. Sometimes you're playing different roles. sometimes I feel that I'm an advocate there in the factory, because recently, for example, we had I was proposing this tenter waste heat recovery to a factory. Everybody was convinced except one person, and this one person actually was new to the textile industry, and he came from the oil and gas sector. So he had a different apprehensions about this, how this will be implemented. He was thinking too deep, and then I was an advocate at that time. So everybody in the factory told me that you have to convince this person. If you convince this person, then this solution will be implemented. And everybody, including the directors, agreed to the solution, but this person who had to implement it was not agreeing to it. So that is when I became an advocate, and I asked him questions, and I answered to his questions. And then what we did was that I asked him to draw a schematic diagram of how he thinks this will get implemented and why he thinks it will fail. So he drew a schematic diagram, and then in that diagram we figured out that he had some wrong assumptions. He thought that there will be additional motors, additional fans, and many additional equipment to be installed, and then this will not work. And I told them in this diagram which items actually you can remove. So that is how sometimes I become an advocate, but I never go into a role of a regulator or enforcer, because I'm not a third party auditor. And sometimes I also become an observer or clarifier when I'm conducting a TOT, usually a physical TOT. And once the TOT is done, after the TOT, the participants conduct a training themselves. And then I observe that training. We did this in Myanmar last year. We did this in Pakistan many times. I'm going to do this next month in Pakistan on chemicals management as well. I will conduct a training first. So I will be an educator and trainer, a resource person, and a technical expert, and a problem solving partner at the same time. Then the people who are getting trained will conduct training in front of me to some other people, and then I will become an observer at that time. So always remember that we can switch roles, and it's not always we will stick to only one role. Those consultants or trainers who only stick to one role are usually not able to progress. If you are a scientist, let's say, then you stick to normally one role. But even a scientist sometimes has to come out of that role and advocate to people about the solution he or she is presenting. So we always are jumping between the roles, so always remember this. And then knowing your client, this grid, what it is we have three typical client groups. One client group is a description type, those who have typical key concerns, and those who have typical benefit desires, who want to get some outputs. So how to work with these clients, then talking about sponsors and user clients, for example, work directly with you. The description type clients work directly with you, often on your project team, representing the sponsor client, so they become part of your team. The typical key concerns become, for example, will this project succeed? Will I look good as a result of this? So what benefit do they get personally, for example? Then these working clients also have benefit desires. What are their benefit desires? That they want a clean project guidelines, so they don't want any hiccups there. Won't take too much time. So if it is taking too much time, then they might get scared of it. For example, do they get any career enhancement out of it? Will the project become successful or not? If you have typical client groups as a sponsor, then they are the ones who approve your project, for example, and then they also have typical concerns and typical desires. End users also have typical concerns and desires. For example, it would make their lives easier, for example. And there are some indirect stakeholders. There are some coach clients, and then there are other stakeholder client groups. So in each column, we're talking about a typical client group, and in row we are describing them, then typical key concerns that they might have, and typical benefits that they want to get. Obviously there could be others as well, but this is only one way of knowing your client as well. So do give a read afterwards to it. But we already discussed in that on the day one how to know our client and what kind of typical questions we can ask. The questions are written on the right hand side as well. So what do you want at the end of the project? Typical guiding questions that you need to ask the client. What do you want at the end of the project? Clarify the objectives. Remember on the day one I said, ask the clients why do you need an energy audit? What do you want to achieve out of the energy audit, right? So that is the first point. What do you want to achieve out of the energy audit? Is it that you want to achieve savings? Are you looking for compliance, or are you looking for satisfaction of the buyer? Are you looking for the legal reasons, for example? Why do you want this? How will you know you have achieved what you want? So how do you evaluate the results? Let's put it this way. How would we evaluate the results? How would you know that you have achieved what you want? How will it look, feel, or sound when your organization has it? For example, if your organization achieves energy savings, how would it feel it? So for example, if client says that we want to tell everybody that we have got big savings, so this means that they also want to do it for the marketing purposes. Okay, so this feeling that they have achieved something big and they have done something which others in the industry has not been able to do, or they have achieved a certain level which others were not able to achieve, that would mean that in my efforts on energy efficiency services, I would look at the strategic aspects and the marketability aspects of the services that we're providing as well. Then what other assistance will or does your organization have to reach this goal? So other than hiring us as advisors, are you also working with other groups, other consultants, other trainers to reach this goal, or is it everything is on our shoulders? And then what has stopped you up till now from doing this? So what challenges have you been facing, for example? Why have you not been able to improve your energy efficiency so far? Have you done any energy efficiency projects in the past? Have you done any audits in the past? Can you share the reports with us, for example? Or at least can you share the action plans with us and the progress on this action plan? How did you evaluate the impact at that time? So asking these questions is very, very important. And one small part in the bottom is, what are the logistic requirements? So when do we go there? When are the people available? How many days we can go in the field? Who will be the people involved? Who is the key contact person? Who is the team involved, for example? And what if there are any special requirements? Then you can plan your first client meeting, for example. Sequence of the one of the proposed sequences, obviously you can change it, starting off with introducing yourself, explaining the general purpose, making a preliminary presentation on energy management, for example, if the client does not know about it. But if the client knows about it, then present to them how you can help them. Okay, rather than presenting them the benefits if they already know the benefits, for example. Then getting permission to take a look at the company using, for example, an energy management maturity matrix tool or any other tool that evaluates their baseline, or clean by design tool, for example. Explain that this tool allows the company to get a quick idea of the present situation in its energy management. Take them along, do it together with them, and then suggest that management, production manager, EHS, utility in charge, and we separately fill the questionnaire or the maturity matrix tool or whatever tool we have. We do it separately in 1, 2, 3 groups. Then we come back together and then we merge our results together. So for example, have 3 or 4 extra copies of the tool that you're going to use. Then don't fill this tool sitting in the table. Go conduct a walkthrough audit, gather further information to answer these quick scan questions that you have in these tools. Come back, meet after the walkthrough to review the results, present your findings, ask the company team to present their findings, compare both answers, see where your answers are matching and where they think they have performed well, but we think that they are not performing so well, or vice versa, for example. Then encourage a reflection on the findings. Ask them how they come up to this result and tell them how you came to this result. For example, let's say that you scored them 2, they scored themselves 5. So discuss with them how they scored themselves 5. Maybe we forgot to see, we overlooked some aspects, or maybe they are too much enthusiastic about their results and we have some different findings, for example. And then come to a common understanding, enter the findings into, for example, a spider web diagram or any diagram which can compare both results together, explain how our program that we're going to do can help them in improving these scores or improving their finding, their situation, and then decide on next steps. Prepare the minutes of meeting, for example, send them minutes of meeting, do a concluding meeting at the end, for example. So this is just one way of planning the first visit to the client. Further issues to clarify in this in advance, you can do this in this meeting or even before, is who will be the main contact person in the company. And then tell them in advance what support is needed from the company. For which processes we need technicians, how many technicians, which expertise do we need from them, do we need a working space to sit or work there, which areas do we need to get accessibility to, then preliminary data requirements, what kind of data logs do we need, what kind of test reports do we need from them, do we need so send them, for example, in advance the templates, just like the one I shared with you, for example, or if you have a better template, for example, send them in advance, get data from them in advance. Announcement of scope and boundaries and responsibilities. So don't just keep it to yourself, but ask the management to announce the scope, boundaries, and responsibilities to the whole team, and even to those people who are not main part of the team. So imagine you go to their energy team, and EHS and utility team are the ones who are supporting you, but production people are usually not part of this team. Make sure that the company invites everybody, all the departmental heads, quality head, procurement head, finance head, production head, in the first meeting, so that everybody knows that we are there for this service, so that no hurdles come in. And then ensuring top management availability, and there could be other aspects as well. For example, if the factory will pay us for the transportation, or if we have to pay for ourselves, or if they are going to pay for accommodation, or we are paying for it, who's paying for lunch, what time do we start, what time do we finish each day, for example. So these kind of things we need to clarify in advance. Also remember the change formula. Change comes when the benefit of change is bigger than the resistance to change. And how do we, what is it? The dissatisfaction with the current situation, vision of what is possible, so what do we want to achieve, and taking the first concrete steps. So remember this, we already had a discussion on this change formula as well. And then how to put the client into driver's seat. So constitute, for example, this is one example, is GIZ have a methodology called Dialogue for Sustainability. And in first step, they require constitution of a factory level change management team. So the factory have to announce a change management team. In this case, they have to announce an energy team or an energy change management team. Then along with the factory team, actually guiding the factory team in developing the baseline, then implementing the 6-step methodology. And what is that? Identifying problems along with factories. So for example, checklist, meta plan, idea generation, brainstorming session, then doing a root cause analysis, then goal analysis, so developing goals, developing flowcharts, finding solutions, brainstorming, developing technical solutions, consulting the best practices guide, or proposing solutions as experts sometimes as well. Then agreeing on solutions by voting or by impact assessment sheet, for example. Then creating an action plan. So this is all as a guiding process. So remember this grid. In this situation, we are the process facilitators. So we're jumping between problem solving partners, process facilitators, and the observers and clarifiers. So we're usually in these 3 columns when we're implementing this dialogue for sustainability process. So we anyways do this on ourselves as well, but the difference is that this time in the dialogue for sustainability, we have to do a dialogue with the change management teams, and the change management teams have to steer this whole process by themselves. And at the end, the step 4 is to have regular meetings with the change management teams for these 6 steps, and then also for implementation monitoring. So this is how the dialogue for sustainability approach is done by the developed by the GIZ. This is applicable easily in larger companies where we can have more than one teams, for example, or even if we have one team, we can do it. But where we have people who are more forward looking, who are educated, or who are willing to cooperate, so there you can do a steering of process with them, tell them that this actually brings in sustainability for the company, because and also brings in ownership of the process. So it's not us as experts only who are proposing solutions, but we are guiding their team to come to solutions. And obviously, wherever we think that we have to put ourselves into the advocate role or the technical expert role, we must put ourselves there. And most of the measurements, for example, would come into step 2, where we having our own measurement equipment have to support the company team in developing the baseline reports. One suggestion from my side is that when you are going to the factories, even for a technical work, try to incorporate this somehow. It also saves your cost of energy service, because when we ensure that right from the beginning factory has assigned a team which we call as a change management team, which means that we have put their team into the driver's seat. This means that they're putting in resources as well, and then we might achieve our results in even lesser days, or we might go there with rather than going there with 5 experts, we might go there with 4 or 3 experts sometimes. So it also saves on our efforts as well, plus gives them the process ownership. So whatever solutions we're identifying, the ownership or the onus is on the factory team. So this fear of implementation, fear of this not agreeing to some solutions, for example, a lot of these issues, get subsided because of this and get resolved because of this. And we also subside a lot of difficult situation in this. We don't face many difficult situations in this. So try to incorporate this. Sometimes what happens is that some problems are so technical in nature that right from point 1, identify problems, we jump towards point number 4, finding solutions. Sometimes we don't even need to do a cause analysis. So this also happens. So don't just follow this religiously, just following each and other step. Sometimes we have to merge these steps together as well. Sometimes we have to even divide them in more than 6 stages as well. So be flexible with all the approaches. I've been saying it right from the day 1, always use tools that are provided to you or that are available to you in the market as a guiding tool, not as a prescribed tool. Make changes to the tools according to your need, make changes to the methodology, experiment with the methodology, and try to see if you can come up with something new which is more suiting to your process and to your clients.